There's a lot of love in the BattleBots community.
There's a lot of love and peer pressure in the community.
People were more excited to see what I built, and I was more excited to talk about what I built than my success in the show.
We were wondering, who are we going to fight? And the next morning, I wake up to, they gave me Lockjaw, the veteran of the veterans.
The things that us as engineers are so proud of are all on the line. If you make one mistake, you crash, you blow it up.
Today we're talking to Lockjaw and Jackpot.
On this episode,
Behind the Battle.
Hey everyone, we're here with Donald Hudson, the famous driver of Lockjaw. All right, everybody, we're on with Jeff Waters from Team Jackpot. How did you get into robotics?
My direction into robotics really came from my passion of building remote control planes and gliders. Mainly gliders. Most people wouldn't think that a glider would do that. And my first thought was, it's like a kite. How cute, you know? And then I realized how hard it was to fly and steer even a slow-moving, simple glider. But what I really loved about it was a pure sport. You would go to the edge of a cliff and throw your creation off this cliff. There were so many really byproducts of flying a glider that was so amazing that I just wanted to build more of them. So over the course of, I think about 6 years, I worked my way all the way up to these glider cams. And at this point, they're high performance, I'm whipping around hang gliders and real gliders in the same airspace. And I have a co-pilot, one of my roommates, steering a black and white UHF telemetry to a black and white TV, okay? And all this was being filmed on a Hi8 camcorder, which I tore apart and remoted the camera lens, I think like 6 inches. And I want you to keep in mind, I had no idea how to do any of this, but the passion to see what it was like to fly like a bird, it was enough to lure me in. And the fact that it hadn't been done before, I thought FPV was going to be a big thing. Crazy, right? That was over 25 years ago. I think that's really what did it for me. I felt this connection with building and designing something and then going and experiencing it. But I also liked the feeling of what was at risk. Your own designs, your own ideas, the things that us as engineers are so proud of are all on the line. If you make one mistake, you crash, you blow it up.
How long have you been doing competitive robotics and combat robotics?
That was, I think, the first Robot Wars, which technically is BattleBots. It did start here in the US, and that was 1996. Mm-hmm. And I was very proud to be a part of it. I learned that day, I built my first robot called Tazbot, and it was a goofy little turret-driven robot. I learned a very valuable lesson that first trip up there, and that was that people were more excited to see what I built, and I was more excited to talk about what I built than my success in the show. I kind of knew I was in the right place. It's kind of like when you go there and you realize that you're there to impress the other engineers, and you're there to put on a good battle for the spectators.
Jeff, did your experience with Beetle Weights give you an advantage in building Jackpots so fast?
I think it was a mix of that prior knowledge of different building techniques from doing construction for a living. Many of those electric motors and tuning all scales up. I did have a lot of help from other teams as well. I know Dustin was a big help for us from Deep Six. Bunny helped us a good amount. Don from Huge. Jack Barker gave me a little bit of advice when I was going through building it. We have a little Discord channel that we all like to hang out in for different combat bots, and people just jump in there, and I'd be sitting there streaming the CAD, and they'd jump in and say, "Hey, this is working. I like this."
Yeah.
And this is not working. You should change that.
There's a lot of love in the BattleBots community.
There's a lot of love and peer pressure in the community. The whole build a heavyweight thing mostly came from Dustin because he wasn't going to fight Deep Six this year. So I was like, well, since you're driving from Cali to Virginia, you're driving right through Vegas. you should just drop Deep Six off with us and we can take Deep Six for you. And he'd say like, well, I have the old blade, I can do that, and we can put that on something. It just kept turning into peer pressure. Like, build a heavyweight, do it.
Donald, you mentioned that you mentor a VEX team. Tell me about them.
I mentored a VEX team that was part of the Kearney High School. They were young, inspiring engineers. I got to give them a lot of credit. They stuck through the whole thing, and they made it to the little regional here in San Diego, but they didn't make it very far. But they had a good experience, and I think that's the whole part of robotic competitions. They're meant to take young kids that are just kind of wandering around high school going, well, how is this ever going to apply? Why should I be paying attention? I've met a bunch of them since they did this event. They're all in great, passionate jobs. They were already meant to do those things. They just needed a good story to get them going. They needed a good reason to do it, even if it was just to impress me, or other kids. I think they all genuinely look up, find a place on a team. They learn so many great experiences from it. It's just a great experience for me too. Everybody wins. I think by now, I really can't understand why our government, it's not an actual class and a letter on your jacket. I mean, there should be awards for having a smart brain too in robotics and engineering. And I hope it happens someday. And what's great about today is that compared to yesterday, is today it is absolutely great and sexy to be an engineer, to be smart. No, this is true. I think I have to say it that way because the young kids out there, they're looking up at all these young, talented startup companies, and maybe even Bob and Tony, the same exact category. The owners of VEX, the founders, came from that. They were nerdy, geeky superstars, right? Just in the making, And I think everybody should dream of being, smart and nerdy and very intellectual and solving some of today's toughest problems.
I want to ask you about the glitter. What's going on with glitter?
We turned it into one of those things, like every great team is great because they make a rule. Like Deep Six had a weapon so big that they limit the weapon sizes. Ribbots, foam got everywhere, so they said no more foam. So we're like, well, let's just cover the whole thing in glitter and see if we can get glitter banned.
Is it just the weapon or is it the whole robot?
It's just the weapon. But the weapon has like this, I'd say almost like this 1/16 of an inch thick coating on it of just glitter and like sequin flakes. So if you see slow-mo shots of us hitting opponents, it hits and you see this like shower of glitter coming off.
At what point does that layer of glitter become extra armor?
That's a good point.
Donald, it's time to talk about your fight with Jackpot. Man.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to start out by saying, I'm sure people listening to this, may listen to all the previous conversations about inspiring young engineers. Jackpot and their team is exactly that. They've built smaller combat robots before, but what's interesting about this story is I happened to catch their feed of them building that robot over the 2 weeks before the competition happened. Mm-hmm. And every day I would see and I would be like, oh, that's cool. I'm so happy to see that's cool. It's such a new team. Oh my God, that thing's looking pretty dangerous. They're going to build that in 2 weeks?
We were wondering, who are we going to fight? Because they were doing some like weird interviews with me. Like, oh no, they're going to give me someone nasty. All these newer rookie teams seem to be bringing all these new ideas, and all these old veteran builders seem to be stuck in their ways. And that's one of the things I said during the interview. And the next morning, wake up to, they gave me Lockjaw. They give me veteran of the veterans.
What was your strategy going into this fight with Jackpot?
I think I underestimated them a little bit at first because I was thinking back that they just built it. I had watched their previous match. I just happened to be sitting in the stands. And I thought, well, maybe I can get around it, And I remember my whole team going, okay, well, what's our strategy going in? I go, well, I'm pretty sure I know what they're going to do. They're going to take their jaws off. My team's like, nah. They're going to use those against you. You guys are both going to have jaws. I'm like, nah, those guys are smart. They're going to take them off. And so our plan was, this is what my team tells me. They always tell me this. Like, Donald, you're a great driver, man. Look, just go in there, just dance around him a few seconds. You'll find a weak spot. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. Is that what happened? No.
We were 2-0 at that point. So we were like, well, even if we lose to Lockjaw. I had some advice from some builders about how he drives, and I played into that. Some people, I don't know if they want me to mention your name, that says he gets like tunnel vision sometimes.
Apparently everybody does.
Or he gets really aggressive and use that aggression to your advantage. What do we do for strategies? Like, we were like measuring up where things that we can hit on him and all that. Getting the weapon all the way at the speed, and we just went head on into him. And he was trying to turn a little bit, and I turned in, and I clipped his weapon belt. Most of that fight was us, Lockjaw trying to flip us with his, little lifter forks, and him chasing us. We would, at one point, there's this awesome shot of us going full speed to him chasing us, and we stop, and he trips up on us, and we flip him up and over. I think we got one more good hit on him. Then he starts driving away, and all of a sudden it just fills up with smoke, and it just stops. I was like, well, if I hit him, he might start working again, so I'm just gonna leave him.
The start of the match, it's 3, 2, 1, go. You guys just collide immediately. It's just weapon on weapon.
It's stupid. It's like my rule number 1 of BattleBots is when, give it some time. But you got to remember that this is what makes BattleBots different. You get in there. And I had that plan. And I kind of turned and I looked, and they were really fast. So there's 2 things that happen. The minute somebody comes out of the box, you can judge within 1 millisecond whether your plan's going to work or not. At that point, I only had one maneuver, which was to turn, and I was spinning my weapon up. I was trying to get it spun up, and they just got me. It was a brilliant hit. It was just really brilliant driving on their part. They knew if they box rushed me, they were going to get one side of me. Mm-hmm. And it would be very difficult for me to line that up perfectly, to outweigh their weapon. So hats off to them. It's a great robot, and I'm just glad to see that they're doing well, and they have a great story. They have a great future in BattleBots, and I hope I'm a contributor to that. I hope I'm a contributor to their confidence that even the biggest can fall, right?
Jeff is going to hear this, and his heart is going to soar. Like, he's going to be like, oh my. Like, he's going to be on a next level when he hears you say that. Donald, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate everything. Jeff Waters, it has been awesome talking to you about Jackpot. Thank you so much. See ya.
See you, man.
This is Donald Hudson, Team Mutant Robots, and Lockjaw, signing out. Beansprout.
Join us next time for more exclusive interviews on the Hexbug YouTube channel, and make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a second of the action. Thanks for watching.